Welcome to Cause Before Symptom with your host, James Carner.
The corporate republic, citizenship replaced by shareholding. Yeah. Is that where we're going? Well, you'll find out. Stick around. Welcome to Cause Before Symptom. I'm your host, James Carner. Today is September 18th, 2025. Tonight's episode is all about the corporate republic. Yes, citizenship may be replaced by shareholding. Is that how they get everyone to switch to a CBDC crypto? They'll say, we'll make you all rich. You'll all be able to pay off your homes. Just switch from paper to digital. Well, there's two ways that can go about it. One, they can go that direction, or two, wait till a cataclysmic event happened. And I'm so sorry for yawning. Today, I have you guys ever replaced the rolling mechanisms underneath a sliding glass door? You know, the back door that slides. Okay. You know, you think that this would not really be much of a challenge, except this thing took me all freaking day long. Whoever built this hates people. Whoever designed this form of sliding glass door that I had to shimmy to get out, because it didn't matter if the tracks were up or not. Even when you lift it up, there was not enough height to get the 50-pound sliding glass door out of the actual box frame that it comes in. I gotta say, that is just the way that it is in America. See, they don't want you to replace anything. They want you to rip it all out and put in a new one. So what I had to do is I had to jerry-rig this thing and to tweak it just so that it could semi-work, and then literally shimmy it back in. Pop! And I gotta tell you, I'm sore. It hurt. So that's what I did today. Shout out to everybody on the live chat rumble. We've got Jeffrey Warrior #1 saying, hey y'all, we already got another distraction with this situation with an artist supposedly killed a young girl. It's all over TikTok. Everyone's forgot about Israel and our laws slowly being taken away. Well, that's how it works. You're in the United States of propaganda. And there's nothing we can, well, you can pray. You can try to get the people together under one accord, try to get the churches together and pray the same prayer to get the devil out. But unless you know your enemy, and unless you know which principalities are stationed where, you ain't going to get nowhere. Because you've got to bind those that have a legal contract right to be there. And you have to prove in court, in the heavens, that they don't belong there. Spiritual warfare isn't easy. And it's not something that you should take lightly either, because believe me, when you dance with the devil, he bites. I know this personally. So there you have it. This is Cause Before Symptom. I'm your host, James Carner. Guys, it is very, very good to be here. I always look forward to doing the show every night. I know that some nights I can't be here, and I apologize for that, but hopefully we can continue doing it this route. Let's go ahead and get into breaking, crappy fake news. See if we can find this artist who killed a young girl. America Kirk takes a leadership role in Turning Point USA. Well, I didn't see that one coming. Ben Shapiro. Who cares? Look, the enemy is doing all kinds of things and hoping one thing will stick. If World War III can't stick, then he's going to go for a civil war in America. And if that can't stick, they're going to go for, rise of the South to start a whole new civil war. It's insane. Jeffrey, our listener, says, James, how many tattoos do you have? I've got 2. One on each arm. One is a guitar with names written in it, my wife and my son's name. And the other is a symbol that my older brother drew about, the circle of trust that he put together. And we went to a tattoo parlor, and, when people see the tattoo, they go, oh my God, it's Satan. No, there is a skull on there smoking a pipe, but no, it's not satanic. And, if you get a satanic tattoo, you can easily bind the attachment, the demon that's attached to it, and cast it away. That's one great gift that we have. But yeah, as far as more tattoos, hey, guys, they hurt. And I'm a pussy. Trump threatens licenses of TV stations that criticize him. Well, I told you. You all went after him. Now he's coming after you. All right? And what's interesting is, tough shit. I just don't care. You see, I know who Trump works for. The Orsini family, the West. The ones who just wined and dined Melania and Trump to say, please do not partner with Russia. Please do not. The crown needs you. All right? Basically, it was like King George got on his knees and, did some unkingly-like things for Trump. Because, Trump is kind of in that position to partner with Russia and China and screw the entire Orsini clan. But the Orsinis sent the king, who was dressed like a fool. What a moron. The head of the crown. And, this is what happens when you, tickle the tail of the dragon. You should have been warned. Well, you were warned by the Breakspears when they broke off and you kicked them out of the black nobility families and they went east, started their own shit. Now they're coming for you. And that's how these families roll, man. Back and forth. Trump is poised to fire U.S. attorney for resisting effort to charge New York Attorney General Letitia James for something. I don't know, I don't care. Again, Letitia James is working for China, working for Chicago. That's it. All right? There are 2 mafias that control America, and those 2 mafias, one works for the Orsini mob and the other for China's mob. China's partner with Russia, and Russia has a lot to do with this as well. And that's just how it is. And Trump administration faces hurdles in targeting left-wing groups, experts say. Well, again, you guys targeted him. He's going to target you. He's got nothing to lose. You can impeach him, and all that does is filling out paperwork like it did with Clinton when they impeached him. It didn't do shit. Just like you did with Trump the first time. It didn't do shit. So, if you're more interested in China's New World Order and you're working for the left because the left is working for China. Well, you're going to hate Trump and go after him, and, well, Trump's going to come after you. And since he's president, well, he could really order some really bad stuff to happen. Man dies from blunt impact injuries after riding coaster at new Florida amusement park. Blunt impact injuries. Ouch. Well, every time I get on a ride, I know that's that's a possibility. Maybe a low possibility, but I feel bad for the person who got hurt and their family. And TikTok deal looms as China talks stall. Well, who saw that one coming? I did. And let's go ahead and look at this distraction. So, artist kills young girl. Let's look that up. Artist kills young girl. Let's see if there's anything in the news. Well, it looks like this is the body found in singer's D4VD's Tesla. It's identified it as a teenage girl. Let's read this interesting story. The human remains found at a Hollywood tow yard inside the trunk of Tesla belonged to singer and songwriter D4VD. That sounds like a sexually transmitted disease. So, Doc, give me the bad news. Well, you got D4VD, pal. I think you need a shot. Have been identified as those belonging to a 15-year-old girl from Riverside County. The County of Los Angeles Medical Examiner's Office listed the victim as Celeste Ribas. Sorry, Celeste, you were a victim of satanic ritual abuse, with the cause of her death deferred. We're going to defer it. The time of death is still unknown, but she went missing last year, and there were missing person flyers everywhere. And police discovered the human remains stuffed inside a bag in the trunk of the car after responding to reports of a foul smell at the Hollywood tow yard after it's been reeking for a year. I got to tell you, how come it took so long for them to find a body in a Tesla? I mean, I don't know. So I guess that's the headline that's breaking news over all of Israeli airstrikes against Gaza. It's a whole military against just a group of people who are getting killed. 70% of them are all women, children, and senior citizens. Yeah, Robert Curtison says, D4DT, R2D2, wins C3PO. Anyway, all that is the bullshit breaking news. All right, we're going to go to a quick commercial when we get back. We're going to be talking about the corporate republic, the coming citizenship that will be replaced by shareholding. Can you believe it?
Do you have tax burdens? Do you carry personal liability? If so, let me tell you why you have tax burdens and personal liability. And if you stick with me until the end, I'll share a simple solution to reduce the burdens you carry. When you put assets in your name, you also carry the liability. And by setting up a corporation, LLC, or partnership, you also carry the liability for the share of ownership you have in these organizations. So when you receive a W-2 form, 1099, or a K-1 at the end of each year, that shows your liability for the assets you have carried in your name or your business name. The flow of liability works this way. You get a job, you take money in your name. When you are a contractor, you take money in your name. When you begin a business, you take money in the business name, which is set up with you as the owner. Nelson Rockefeller quoted, "The secret to success is to own nothing but control everything." He said this because when you own something in your name, you also own the liabilities. Introducing the solution. Begin an unincorporated association and remove assets out of your name while remaining in control and management of them. An unincorporated association is a state-registered entity that you can put assets into, is member-based and not tied to your name, has a tax-exempt EIN number, is private and not found when doing an online search. Whether you receive a 1099 or K1 under your name, consider setting up your own unincorporated association and allow the association to be the owner of your assets and free yourself from the burden of personal liability. P.S. Join our affiliate program and receive payment for referrals.
All right, back to the show. Tonight we're going to be talking about the corporate republic. Citizenship replaced by shareholding. So guys, tonight I want you to set aside the familiar image of the nation state, right? Where you're a citizen, where you got sovereign rights, where and your vote counts, right? You got flags, you got borders, constitutions, and parliaments. And look with me into the architecture that is quietly replacing it. What is being built in plain sight is not a restoration of an old order, but something altogether brand new. A corporate republic. A system in which you and I are no longer citizens of sovereign nations, but shareholders in a planetary enterprise. Here's how it works. The promise is simple. A universal income. A guaranteed dividend for every man, woman, and child. Credited not as charity, but as your rightful share. But look closer. Because in this system, you are not a citizen with inalienable rights. You are a stockholder with conditional privileges. And your share entitles you to a payout, yes, but also binds you to bylaws, arbitration, compliance, and terms of service, written not by your people, but by boards, foundations, and coded contracts. You know, the rich people. Citizenship is replaced by corporate membership. Rights are reframed as benefits, and law itself dissolves into contract. You know, if the whole truth of it's not truth, but if the whole story of Trump, the white hats, Q, Anon, and this whole QFS, quantum financial system, and the quantum system, we're all going to get $10 million. If that was true, well, then this is where they would take us. Into a corporation, which, ironically, America is already a corporation since 1871, when they put in Washington, D.C. to be the ledger account for all states that earned for the crown. And the pieces of this machine are actually in place right now. Nobody knows this, but you're hearing it here first. European scholars like Michael Zern and Christian Jorge have shown how compliance and enforcement can be built beyond the state using treaties, arbitration, and supranational law. Others document how corporations, NGOs, and cities bypass governments and act as international authorities in their own right. And most revealing, thinkers like Jared Hope and Peter Ludlow proclaim openly that the nation state is an obsolete technology, a relic of Westphalia, to be replaced by blockchain communities and DAOs. Now, the backbone of this system is the ledger. You've heard of that name. Digital identity, blockchain, programmable money, and automated compliance. To the technocrats, it is neutral code. Liars. But to those with eyes to see, guys, like you and me, it is a counterfeit book of life. The book of death. An Akashic record of every transaction and every soul, immutable and unforgiving. where Scripture tells us that God will blot out sin. Here, every action is fixed forever, every compliance scored, every disobedience punished by exclusion from the dividend. But here is the problem for the elites. They have the architecture, the rhetoric, the pilots, but not the legitimacy. People will not willingly surrender their citizenship for corporate membership. You see, they need a shock, a rupture, a cataclysm that will make the old order look so broken that this new order appears as salvation. A global financial collapse, a climate disaster, a pandemic more brutal than the last, or a cyber attack that paralyzes governments. Any of these could be the Babel moment that convinces the world to accept a corporate charter in place of the Constitution, a dividend in place of wages, and bylaws in place of rights. Friends, brothers and sisters, this is the true esoteric meaning that we've been talking about on the show for a year. The alchemical process of solve et coagula. Dissolve the nations, coagulate them into a single body politic, one world government. It's Babel rebuilt, but with servers and ledgers. It is Revelation replayed as code, where no man may buy or sell save he that has the mark of the beast. It's the eternal counterfeit offering equality and sustenance at the cost of freedom and spirit. So tonight we name it plainly. We're going to go through it. And the corporate republic is coming. You can see it through companies like Amazon. You can see it through other companies like Apple. They're so big, they make more money than a typical country. And unless we understand its architecture and the crisis it waits upon, well, we may mistake it for progress or for fairness. We may even mistake it for salvation. But it is not the kingdom of God. It is the kingdom of man, wrapped in silicon and ledgers, awaiting the day of its unveiling. I'm just here to give you the cause. Instead of all of the symptoms that we see, like bodies in trunks, Charlie's dying, I'm trying to get to the root cause of why we're in a recession, but we're not. Why prices keep going up, but we're told they're not. And why it's just so hard to get along. Well, it's manufactured crisis. Rinse, lather, repeat, baby. So to understand where we are going with this, we must first recognize how the elites, the devil worshippers, the elites themselves view the present order. For centuries, the nation state has been the primary governance technology of mankind. Borders, constitutions, armies, and bureaucracies became the machinery by which order was maintained and legitimacy secured. But within elite circles today, the nation state is increasingly described not as sacred, not as permanent, but as outdated software. Windows 3.11. A legacy system waiting to be replaced by Windows 95. I remember Windows 11, 3.11. Man, it was fast. It was great. And then Windows 95 came, and it was just like, it was so freaking slow. Just to turn it on, you had to go take a shit and come back, and it finally was ready to go after 10 minutes. But within these circles today, these elites, the nation state is increasingly described not as sacred, but outdated. Now, this is not speculation. This is happening right before our very eyes. If we pay attention to, the World Economic Forum and all of the meetings that they have with, corporations that are too big to fail, and bankers from the International Monetary Fund to the Bank for International Settlements and all the meetings that they do. Yeah, if you go to their websites, they post their meetings. If you pay attention to the United Nations, the WHO, and all of these others international organizations and all of their paperwork, all of their agendas point to a new world order. And it's not going to go the way you think it's going to go. It's going to be different because they're going to distract you with one thing here and implement it over here. And by the time you wake up to the lie, it's too late. I'm not speculating either. I did the research. In the book, Farewell to Westphalia, Jared Hope and Peter Ludlow, they declare bluntly that the sovereign state is nothing more than a governance technology, just a mechanism of control like an operating system, and now approaching obsolescence. Just as feudal lords were replaced by centralized monarchies, and monarchies gave way to nation states, so too will the nation state yield to something new. And what they envision, people like Elon Musk and the technocrats and the groypers, is not another political form, but a corporate one. Blockchain-based entities, sovereign digital communities, and global boards of governance acting like directors over shareholders. Sounds good on paper. So did socialism. So did communism. So did capitalism. But every ism rises and falls. Now, history bears out the pattern here, folks. The Peace of Westphalia in 1648 is often celebrated as the birth of modern sovereignty, the moment when rulers and peoples alike agreed that political power would be organized within fixed territorial boundaries. For nearly 4 centuries, that model held up. Though always contested, still held up, until the last century has actually exposed its cracks. 2 world wars showed how fragile sovereignty could be. The creation of the United Nations, League of Nations first, and the European Union proved that states would cede parts of their power to larger supranational structures. Power. And in the 21st century, as multinational corporations outgrow national economies, and as digital networks connect more people than any state could govern, the elites, the bankers, see the nation state as insufficient, even inefficient. And legal scholars echo the same theme. Michael Zern and Christian Jorge, they describe how compliance and enforcement are already achieved in supranational law without relying on a single sovereign. Trade regimes like the World Trade Organization, remember when the left were in Seattle protesting against the WTO and now they support it? That's funny. Environmental treaties and arbitration courts already bind states to rules that they cannot simply ignore. Power has migrated upward and outward. And the elites now ask, why not complete the process? Why not declare the state obsolete and shift governance to a corporate, contractual model? And so the stage is set. Well, in their eyes, you and I are not primarily citizens of nations, but nodes in a global network. Future shareholders in a planetary enterprise. Your nationality is a temporary placeholder until your new role as stockholder in the corporate republic is formalized. And you may not be able to get into this unless you change your DNA and get the shot. Control. I'm doing some research. I may do a show on it tonight. That the people who took the shot are now considered Homo Borgius or something like that. But you can just shorten it to the Borg. And they're not considered a sovereign citizen of the world or a free man or woman. Don't freak out. So we're nodes now. And what's interesting is, could this happen between now and 2030? And is there little echoes of this corporate republic being put and placed inside, I don't know, the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Club of Rome, the Bilderberg Association? Come on. Yeah, there are keywords and echoes that spell it out if you just read between the lines of what they're trying to achieve. And your nationality, well, it's going to be a temporary placeholder until your new role as a stockholder is in the corporate republic and been formalized. You know what happens when you get a job? Well, you get interviewed. Sometimes you don't get the job. But don't miss the esoteric echo here. This reeks of Satan. And what they call progress is, in truth, the ancient dream of Babel. To dissolve the divisions God established and to construct a single tower of human governance. Now, the modern tower is not brick and stone, but code and contracts. To the technocrats, well, this is evolution. This is the fourth industrial revolution. But to those with eyes to see, it's rebellion dressed as modernization. And the next step in this transformation is the redefinition of what it means to belong. You're not a citizen anymore. You're just an employee. But you've got stock and benefits. For centuries, the central bond of political life has been citizenship. To be a citizen meant you were part of a people, bound by laws, protected by rights, and included in a covenant of shared destiny. Citizenship was not merely transactional, it was sacred, rooted in history. It was identity. It was sacrifice. But in the corporate republic being built, and it's being built, nobody knows about it, except, well, the warriors. Citizenship is to be dissolved and replaced with shareholding. And you will not be valued as a member of a nation, but as a stockholder in a planetary enterprise. It's just a new ethos, just a new epoch. You will not be valued as a member of a nation, but as a stockholder in a planetary enterprise. So your rights will no longer flow from the inherent dignity of people or dignity of being human or from the social contract of your people. But instead, they will flow from the dividends of your corporate share. And believe me, if you talk bad about the corporation, well, they can ding you on your shares, lower your pay, put you somewhere where you cause less problems, like Antarctica or in the sewer. Remember, you're going to be working for a corporation now. You're going to be working for the commodities manufacturers. And your job and your apartment is going to be afforded by the corporation. And what happens when you're your company and you talk bad about someone outside, like killing Charlie Kirk and celebrating it? You get fired. Yeah. They're telling it right in our face, folks. What's coming? Scorpion says, can we just get this fucking apocalypse thing over with? No. Satan loves that you are tripping, Scorpion. And I do sometimes. I have my bad days too. But Satan loves that energy of us just being so angry but tired and helpless that he wants to pull and suck in your breath. See, we're commanded to be joyful, happy, and to love our neighbors. But Satan, with shows like, Satan's using me, I guess, with these shows of trying to show you what's happening in the future. For that, I'm sorry. I am trying to expose evil. And when you expose evil, well, you get people down. Now, I could do shows about balloons and puppy dogs and flying apes. But you got to admit, we all, the warriors, slow down when there's an accident because we want to see blood. Well, Scorpion, admit it with me, and I'm admitting it with you. This whole apocalypse thing, I think we're addicted to it. But the good news is, every time I do a show, I say, hey, don't worry about it. God's got this. He's got you. We're all going to be just fine. It's all the people who don't believe in God are the real ones that are suffering. So, we will be fine. But those who can't figure out what in the hell is going on, they're not. They're not going to have any peace. They are going to be in turmoil. And right now, the news is throwing all kinds of information. It's chaos. Nobody can just hone in on what in the hell is going on. Where are we going as a country? And it's because that's what Satan does. It's order out of chaos. He wants you completely confused so you don't narrow in on the truth. Now, judging by my audience, the more subscribers you have, the less truth you're given. This is true. Because when you're telling the truth, you're censored highly. And you're monitored and watched. Just like a video that I put up on TikTok. I did a quick little talk today, right after I ate lunch. It was a little break before putting in that sliding glass window track system. Oh my God. But as I uploaded it, it said, oh, don't you want to put a little music behind this, make it a little dramatic. I'm like, oh, fine, fuck it. Then the music's going on. And then I upload it, right? And it's like, all right, it's uploaded, got a couple views. And then all of a sudden I went back to look at it to see how it sounds. And sure enough, right when I get to the important part to tell you who's running the world, they cut my audio out and they just played the dramatic shit. That's the world we live in, where the truth is going to be censored. And you guys can judge. You can judge either a prophet or a pastor or a person who's telling the truth if they have zilch of a following. My true following, guys, is only really, I think, around 500. And because I think Rumble doesn't lie when it comes to views. And so the average view I get for these videos that I do, and it's not live right now. Live, we get around 18 to 23 people a night, but I know I'm just flanking off. But regardless, you can judge the truth by how hard it was to find that person and how their information is being censored, which I think we're closer to the truth than most. Are we at the full truth? I don't know, but I feel good going in this direction. And we're going to make changes as we go, and that's okay. All right? Now, here's how the corporate republic is framed. Okay? Here's how they're going to frame it. It's going to sound so awesome. Now, instead of welfare or wages, you will receive a universal basic income. Isn't that what Elon was talking about? But it will not be called charity. It will be called a dividend. Your rightful payout as a shareholder. Sounds good. Set me up. Anything's better than eating dinner and someone taking a shit right in front of the restaurant and then shooting up and then zombieing out. The fentanyl walk. Now, this dividend that you get will come not from governments, but from the revenues of global corporate structures. Oh, well, that's going to spark competition. It's going to come from data monetization. It's going to come from carbon markets. Get ready for that. It's already there. It's being put into play right now in Boot's own neighborhood as they're raising the prices of electricity, basing the 4 minutes of the most energy you use, and then they take that 4 minutes and times it by the rest of the minutes, and they just say, that's your new electricity bill, which is going to be hundreds and hundreds of dollars, to force you to just go, oh, I gotta do this shareholder shit. They're going to also use programmable currencies and public-private partnerships that funnel profit back to the global ledger. And I do believe they're going to split it up into 10 different corporations. That's what the Club of Rome was talking about. And they're a serious organization of bankers and information, and that's how they want to set the world up to receive their Messiah. Now, each person is allotted a single share. Each person is, therefore, equal, or so the rhetoric will say. Oh, we're all going to be the same. Sign me up. But understand the shift here, folks. In this model, your income is not unconditional. It is tied to identity, credentials, and governed by bylaws. To receive your dividend, you must comply with rules, vaccination requirements, carbon limits, behavioral scores, or any other condition the board decides. If you miss a compliance check, and your dividend can be reduced, delayed, or revoked. So in short, rights become privileges, and privileges are contingent on obedience. The B system where everybody's going to love it. Oh, this is so great. We're all equal. Who could ever make war with the beast? This is the quiet genius of this model, folks. Where governments must win legitimacy through elections and constitutions, well, corporations require only contracts, and contracts can be updated. Terms of service can be changed at any time. And by accepting the dividend, you tacitly accept their bylaws. And the bylaws can evolve without your vote. And this is how citizenship is transformed into employment, the citizens into corporate dependence. It's coming. Along with the rise of the South and along with World War III, where all of the countries are going to surround Israel. It's coming. It's sooner than we think. But don't worry, you're a Christian. God will take good care of you. No, I'm serious, he will. Now, the echoes of this already exist as digital platforms like Facebook, YouTube, PayPal, they all treat their users not as citizens, but as participants bound by terms and service. Violate their terms and your access is revoked. No trial, no due process, no appeal to a higher law. This is why it's a bad fucking idea. And only arbitration inside the company can help. And this is the model now being scaled to encompass not just your media, but your money, your mobility, and your very identity. Now, esoterically, this is where Satan comes in. This is a counterfeit covenant, where God makes his people sons and daughters, heirs by grace, while the corporate republic makes its people stockholders by contract. And it just may say in the fine print that you're going to worship the devil and like it. Now, where true citizenship reflects belonging to a community and a kingdom, this false citizenship binds you as an employee, a unit of compliance within an artificial order. And remember, the language here will be fairness, equality, and fairness. They will tell you everyone has a share, everyone has a dividend, everyone is equal. But equality here is only the equality of livestock in a herd. Equally numbered, equally tagged, equally dependent on the master who distributes the feed. No, the billionaires aren't going to be dividend holders of one share like you. Ain't no way, Jose. So when the nation is dissolved and the shareholder society unveiled, it will not be liberation, but servitude. Servitude in the guise of fairness, dependence in the language of equality, and obedience enforced by the ledger. Can't wait to see what the HR department will be like. Now, for a corporate republic to replace the nation state, which is coming, there must be a framework of law that allows it to operate. And elites, bankers, fat cats, religious crazy nut jobs, psychopaths. The elites cannot simply announce the death of nations. Oh, no. They must construct a legal order where sovereignty has already been eroded, where compliance can be enforced, and where legitimacy can be claimed without the traditional forms of citizenship. And in truth, the scaffolding has been under construction for decades, and those who took the shot became citizens of the corporation, not citizens who have sovereign rights. But they'll be called a republic or something else. But it won't be an actual citizen of a nation, but employee of a corporation. Now consider the European Union, folks. Legal scholars such as Michael Zern and Christian Jorge have documented how compliance in the EU and the World Trade Organization is achieved without a single sovereign authority. Regulations passed in Brussels bind every member state. Dispute mechanisms in Geneva, Switzerland, where the devil sits, can overrule national courts. And in both cases, law exists and is enforced beyond the boundaries of any one nation. So this proves the model, folks. Rules can be made and obeyed even when no sovereign stands behind them. And the elites take this as evidence that post-national governance is not only possible, but already here. Also consider this. We learned through my esoteric research in dynasties that in Italy, it was the mobs directed by the black nobilities to create the first company or corporation, to be outside of state or national or country authority. So this is something that's been in the plans and in the works for hundreds of years. And the elites take this as evidence because everyone's signing up for the operating systems. And evidence that post-national governance is not only possible, but it's already here. You've given everything to Apple. You've given them your thumbprint. You've given them your eyeballs. You've given them your face. You might as well let them give you an enema. And another building block is the rise of arbitration courts and trade agreements. Corporations and investors can already bypass national courts and sue governments in special tribunals. These panels operate outside a democratic oversight. Yet their rulings are binding. When a corporation can override the will of the people expressed through its parliament, you are already living in a legal order where sovereignty is a facade. Arbitration has been the wedge that makes contract more powerful than constitution. Then there are the so-called transnational actors. And believe me, they've been using the word trans to get us used to it. Get us used to it. Jonas Talberg and Krister Johnson, I think it's Johnson, have cataloged how NGOs, non-government organizations, they've been popping up like flies, multinational firms, and advocacy networks secure formal roles in global institutions. Now, what this means is that non-state entities now participate in governance alongside states, drafting rules, setting agendas, and enforcing norms. Yeah, they are. So if the FBI steps up, a non-government organization may step up too and say they have jurisdiction to be there just as well because it's part of the corporation that's under the investigation. Corporations are no longer just regulated. They are regulators. And philanthropies are no longer just donors. They are lawmakers in disguise. This is the quiet privatization of law, and it is the core of the coming corporate republic. Sorry, it's coming. And at the city and regional level, the shift is even clearer. Herschel and Newman's work on the book Cities as International Actors shows how urban governments bypass their nations and deal directly with international bodies. They don't care about what the nation says or the people or the governments. Cities sign climate treaties. The mayors do with international entities. Adopt global standards and partner with multinationals without waiting for national approval. We're seeing this happen in blue states. And then governance can flow to cities and corporations. The nation state becomes one actor among many, no longer the supreme vessel of sovereignty. Great. Now, this legal pluralism is hailed as progress, but it creates a vacuum of legitimacy. And without a sovereign people, who grants authority? Do you? Do I? No. Without a constitution, what limits exist? Scholars themselves call this the democratic deficit of post-national law. And here's where elites see opportunity. By framing the corporation as a provider of universal dividends, they can fill the legitimacy vacuum easy. And the law provides the scaffolding. The dividend provides the consent. And together, they transform citizenship into a contract and the Constitution into bylaws. So esoterically, satanically. This shift is not without meaning. In the Old Covenant of Nations, law was imperfect but rooted in the consent of peoples, echoing the biblical idea that rulers exist by the will of God, mediated through their people. In the New Covenant of corporations, law is contract, rooted not in grace or identity, but in compliance and performance. And this is a counterfeit law, one that mimics justice but delivers only obligation. Imagine after World War III, and we are just so tired of countries fighting countries, that corporations step up and say, follow us. We will give you universal basic income, a place to live, and everything, and just declare that you're not a citizen of that country anymore, that you're an employee with shares with our company. Could go that way. So the legal and institutional foundations are laid. Supranational law arbitration panels, transnational actors, and city diplomacy. They're already setting it up right now with American cities. Remember, those are all those smart cities. Those are through international contracts with corporations. Corporations that want to take over countries. Now, the walls of the nation state still stand, thank God, but the scaffolding of the corporate republic is already being built around them. And all that remains is to knock out the supports and to let the old edifice fall, if we could only be so lucky. Law and treaties alone cannot bind the world into a new order. They need enforcement, identity, and infrastructure. Now, this is where technology actually steps in. The elites have been constructing not only the legal architecture of a post-nation corporate republic, but also its technological backbone. The backbone is built on 3 pillars: digital identity, blockchain ledgers, and programmable money. First, digital identity. To turn people into shareholders, every human being must be registered, verified, and bound to a single global credential. This is not theory, as pilot programs already exist. Systems like ID 2020 and the European Digital Identity Framework propose one ID per person, used across borders for banking, healthcare, travel, and benefits. Without that ID, you cannot access services. With it, you're legible to the system. And it is the shareholder certificate of the new corporate order. Now, second is blockchain ledgers. Crypto ledgers. Blockchain is sold as a neutral tool for trust and transparency. But it can be programmed. But its esoteric role is even deeper. It is the registry of the corporate republic, the counterfeit book of life. See, everyone buys into the whole crypto thing as being so perfect for the world because everything's tracked. And you can find out if the evil elites are stealing money because every amount of dollars tracked. Well, if you work for the corporation, every single year you're going to get, or every 3 months you're going to get a stockholder's information and go into a meeting with all of the other shareholders, and they're going to lay out the entire thing. Well, haven't we seen what corporations always fudge the numbers, and they always do? Yeah, the same thing's going to happen. It's not going to help. Just another bullshit lie that the elites know you will all fall for unless you find people like me who try to warn you about people like them. Every transaction, every movement, if we comply to this, every compliance check is etched immutably into the chain. And unlike the God who blots out sin, the ledger will never forget. Forgiveness is impossible. All that remains is compliance or exclusion. And what once was covenant with grace becomes contract with code. And third, programmable money's coming. Central bank digital currencies are being piloted from China to Europe to the Bahamas. Yeah, it's already in the Bahamas. They're all using crypto to buy shit. These are not just digital dollars or euros. They are tokens that can be programmed. A payment can be conditioned, spendable only on approved goods, expiring after a set time, or revoked instantly if a rule is broken. So imagine your universal dividend issued each month, but spendable only on what the board permits. Imagine losing access because you failed a carbon compliance check. This is money as contract, obedience enforced by code. And when the people finally wake up to the bullshit that they're going to get into, they're going to be dreaming and wishing about today, the past, about how wonderful it was to be a sovereign citizen, to actually be able to travel anywhere you want at any time you want, where the UK just now is passing a law where you can only travel 2 times. 2 flights. You only get 2 flights in the UK. I don't know if it's true or not. I haven't done any research on it, but that's what I've been hearing, and people are really upset. Well, yeah, because you gave up your guns, UK. They're not going to do it to America just yet, but they're slowly figuring out ways to do it. This is money as contract, obedience enforced by code. Now, these 3 tools, identity, ledger, and currency, form the nervous system of the corporate republic, and it's coming. They connect the legal scaffolding of supranational law to the lived experience of every person. They make rights conditional, benefits programmable, and obedience measurable. And once they are in place, enforcement no longer requires armies or police in every street. It requires only the flick of a switch. Deny an ID credential, freeze a dividend, revoke access to services, and a person is disciplined. Compliance becomes automatic, invisible, enforced not by force, but by necessity. They don't even need to shoot you anymore. Esoterically, this is the perfection of Babel. A single tower of data, rising skyward, binding all of humanity into one accord and one record. A counterfeit kingdom where every person is numbered, every act recorded, every privilege conditional. It is the registry of fallen angels dreamed of, now realized in silicon and code. And the elites will call it fairness. What's fair? And efficiency and progress. But to those with discernment, it is a spiritual inversion, the replacement of God's covenant with man's contract. The replacement of mercy with ledger, the replacement of freedom with programmable chains. Robert Gertison says, I wonder if decentralized crypto will be the rich money and centralized crypto will be the poor money. I don't know. But good question. What we've been describing here might sound like a plan that's still on the drawing board, but the truth is that it's already being tested. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody found this information. Well, there's one Russian guy who I give credit to in the sources. Yeah, he's on it. Now, the post-nation corporate republic is not a theory waiting for the future. It's a collection of pilot projects quietly unfolding all around us, hiding in plain sight. Start with the city diplomacy. Herschel and Newman's work on cities as international actors makes it very clear. Cities are already bypassing their national governments. They're already bypassing the feds. Look at Oregon. They have to raise taxes double because they're not getting the federal money anymore. And they can join climate networks, adopt global standards, and enter partnerships with multinational corporations. Like Hawaii. Mayors sign agreements that once only presidents could actually sign. Did you know this? Cities are being groomed as the first units of the new corporate republic. Nimble, cooperative, and ready to adopt global governance structures. It's happening under your noses, folks. Then there are these carbon markets where governments and corporations alike are building systems where every unit of carbon must be tracked, traded, and offset. See, blockchain is already being tested to monitor emissions, prove compliance, and issue credits. And these markets are not just about the environment, they are about habituating people and business to programmable compliance. And the East and the West are building these systems right under your noses. It's not like there's an actual group of people that's fighting against it, or a nation, or a corporation. I'm sorry to say, but the whole Charlie Kirk thing and all the other people out there, they're working for the bad guys. Doesn't matter if they get shot or not. They're all working for the bad guys. Anyone with a voice and a podium is working for the bad guys. And they're slowly getting things into place because they're patient. If your dividend is tied to your carbon footprint, then the corporate republic has the perfect lever of control. Breathe too much, breathe in the breath of God and then exhale and give it back up to heaven. Yeah, you can't do that anymore. Travel too far and your payout shrinks. And next is going to be the digital ID pilots. They're already starting. From India's Aadhaar to the EU digital identity wallet, from African biometric registries to World Bank Fund ID for all programs, digital identity is being normalized. And you're all being distracted by Charlie Kirk. These IDs are not limited to passports or driver's license either. They are gateways to payments, healthcare, education, and even voting. You tie the universal dividend to such an ID, and you have a turnkey system for binding people to their corporate share. And let us not forget the pandemic passports. During COVID-19, millions of people accepted QR codes, digital passes, and tracking apps in the name of public health. That infrastructure is still in place. It's proof that in time of crisis, the public will accept digital credentials in exchange for safety. The elites now know that compliance can be achieved if the emergency is great enough. Well, they learn it from COVID. And finally, crypto jurisdictions and DAOs. Now we'll find out what that means. Special economic zones, blockchain-friendly islands, and decentralized autonomous organizations are already experimenting with sovereignty-light governance. In these spaces, contracts, tokens, and digital bylaws replace constitutions and courts. They are laboratories for the corporate republic, training grounds where future rules are written and tested. Hello, Marcy. Good to see you again, my friend. It's been a long time. When you put all these pilots together, the picture is unmistakable. The architecture of the corporate republic is not hidden. It is scattered all across cities, markets, IDs, and networks. And each pilot is presented as a solution to a problem. Climate change, digital convenience, public health, innovation. But taken together, they reveal a pattern: the slow replacement of citizenship with conditional participation, of law with contract, of nations with corporations. Esoterically, where Satan comes in, these pilots are rehearsals for the devil. In alchemy, transformation requires repeated trials before the final transmutation is achieved. So to here, every pilot is a trial, every compliance system a rehearsal for the great unveiling. And the elites are practicing Babel, brick by brick, until the tower is strong enough to stand. And we're all buying it. Well, I'm not. Now, every empire, every counterfeit kingdom has always clothed itself in noble language. Rome called itself the bringer of peace. The Soviet Union called itself the workers' paradise. And now, the corporate republic wraps its chains in the language of equity and efficiency. DEI. First, the promise of equality. The elites will tell us everyone gets a share. Everyone receives a dividend. No one is left behind. Universal income is sold not as a charity, but as a fairness. The great equalizer in an unequal world. It's gonna sound irresistible. And for the desperate, it will be. But look closer. The equality here is not the dignity of persons created in the image of God. It is the equality of livestock in a herd. Each tagged, each fed, each accounted for. Equal, yes, but only as units of compliance. Or more importantly, Then comes the promise of efficiency. Politicians and think tanks already frame national democracies as just too slow and too divided, too corrupt to meet the challenges of the 21st century, where we need to get into spaceships and go mine other planets for resources. In contrast, corporate governance is presented as agile, data-driven, and meritocratic. Algorithms don't argue. Boards don't deadlock. Smart contracts don't need elections. What takes parliaments years can be done in days by code. But efficiency without justice is tyranny at lightning speed. And then there's the promise of resilience, where we are told the world faces polycrisis, climate pandemic, cyber attacks, financial instability, and only a global coordinated system can withstand the shocks. The rhetoric is clear, folks. Sovereignty is fragility. Integration is resilience. Yet in truth, resilience here means only one thing: obedience. And if you comply, the dividend flows. If you resist, you are cut off. And that is not resilience. That is dependency. Now notice the emotional weight of these words, guys. Equality, efficiency, resilience. Who could oppose them? To resist such words is to appear selfish, backwards, dangerous. The rhetoric is not only a cloak for the new order, it is a weapon against dissent. If you speak against the corporate republic, you will be accused of standing against fairness, against progress, against survival itself. So esoterically, this is the same mask worn by every counterfeit kingdom. Babel promised unity, but it was unity against God. The Antichrist will promise peace, but it will be peace through submission. And the corporate republic promises fairness and efficiency, but it is fairness without freedom, efficiency without mercy. It is the inversion of God's justice, a counterfeit equality enforced by code, a counterfeit peace built on obedience, and a counterfeit order secured by the fear of exclusion. I want to be like everybody else. I want to be like Mike. This is the rhetoric being prepared. They're going for it. And you got to resist it at all cost. And in the day of crisis, it will roll off tongues like honey, soothing a terrified people into surrender. Oh my God, help us from the groypers. They're going to get us with their memes. Or they're going to shoot you because they're nihilists and they don't care about anything, just like in The Dude, The Big Lebowski. If the corporate republic is already scaffolded in law, tested in pilots, and clothed in the rhetoric of fairness, why has it not been unveiled? Well, the answer is simple: legitimacy. The machinery is built, but the people have not yet consented. Without a cataclysmic shock, the system cannot flip from pilot to permanence. So the first obstacle here is the democratic deficit. Legal scholars themselves admit that post-national governance suffers from a legitimacy vacuum. Arbitration panels and supranational courts can enforce rules, but they cannot command loyalty. Without elections, without demos, or who grants consent? The elites know this, and it gnaws at their project. The dividend is designed to fill this gap, but until a crisis makes people desperate enough, legitimacy remains fragile. So we got a shot at beating this fucking thing. Now, the second obstacle is geopolitical rivalry. The European Union, the United States, China, and Russia, they each dream of shaping the new order on their own terms. The EU speaks the language of post-national law, the US of innovation and markets, China of digital authoritarianism, Russia of sovereign resistance, but their visions collide. And so the corporate republic cannot be yet universal. But for elites, the rivalry is a problem to be solved. And a global cataclysm may be the only solvent strong enough to dissolve these competing models into one. Oh, and guess what, guys? Remember, the Ethiopian canon says they'll never get this. They'll never get their crypto blockchain new world corporation. Now, the third obstacle is the public backlash. Nationalism, populism, and cultural identity remain stubborn forces. People cling to flags, languages, histories, and traditions. They resist the reduction of citizens into a contract. of heritage to a share. This is why elites invest so heavily in narrative management, education campaigns, and controlled opposition. They must soften the ground before the transplant can take root. And the fourth obstacle is technical fragility. Blockchain pilots collapse, DAOs implode, CBDC trials stumble. Well, the infrastructure is not yet flawless, is it? Hacks, errors, and capture by powerful actors expose the immaturity of the system. And elites know they cannot roll out the corporate republic while it still looks like a toy. They need time to refine the code, harden the contracts, and normalize the failures. This is the fourth industrial revolution coming, folks. And the fifth obstacle is constitutional law. In many nations, sovereignty is still protected by charters that cannot be easily dissolved. Supreme Courts, legislators, and public referenda still have teeth. And that's why they're trying to destroy America from within. This is why so much energy is spent in soft law, pilot projects, and private contracts, because direct constitutional transfer is too difficult. A crisis that justifies emergency powers, however, can sweep those barriers aside. Well, we've been under emergency powers and emergency declaration and martial law since 1871. Go look it up. If you Google it, you start in the wrong spot, pal. Google is not going to give you the truth. All these obstacles converge on a single truth. The corporate republic is ready. In pieces, but not in whole. And it can function as scaffolding, as a pilot, and as an experiment, but it cannot yet replace the nation without a rupture. Something's got to happen. It can function as scaffolding, but it needs a rupture. Now, it cannot yet command the loyalty of billions without an event that terrifies, disorients, and compels consent. It may take another 100 years because, as we've seen with epidemics, they only release one every 100 years. So we've got 95 more years to go. Esoterically, we see the pattern of initiation, though. In a cult ritual, a candidate must be broken before being remade. Well, are they breaking you? Well, everybody on my show who talks, they say they can't take it anymore. The old identity must be shattered before the new identity is imposed. Well, social media programming and conditioning is working like a charm. So to hear the old order of nations must be broken in crisis before the new order of corporate shareholding can be revealed. And the elites are waiting, watching, and preparing for that moment. Now, the machinery of the corporate republic is assembled. The scaffolding of law is in place. The technology is waiting. The rhetoric is rehearsed. But all of it hangs in suspension, incomplete. What is missing is the spark, the cataclysm that will burn away resistance and make people accept the new order as salvation. And the elites know this. And they continue to try to launch World War III. And they keep failing. They're not simply planning governance. They're waiting for the crisis. And consider a financial collapse. If the dollar loses its grip, if debt markets seize, if banks fail in a contagion that sweeps across nations, chaos would spread faster than governments can respond. And in that moment, the solution could be unveiled. A global ledger, a digital currency backed by central banks or corporate alliances, distributed instantly to every registered citizen holder under the name of Trump Industries. Maybe. The universal dividend, long pitched as fairness, would appear as rescue. People would accept the contract just to survive. In fact, maybe the elites would actually sacrifice the Federal Reserve to move to this and say, yep, we'll sacrifice that. Let's say $41 trillion that you owe the 12 bankers that have been manipulating, spying on us, controlling us since 1913. People would accept the contract just to survive, folks. Or imagine a climate catastrophe, a series of cascading disasters, megastorms, wildfires, crop failures. Well, that's happening. Well, that's not working. They could be framed as proof that nations are powerless, and in that chaos, a corporate carbon market tied to digital IDs and programmable money would be presented as the only rational solution. Want your dividend? Well, prove your carbon compliance, pal. Breathe slower. And the rhetoric of fairness and sustainability would mask the chains of conditional existence. Remember, everyone must be on board. This is where they have the problem. This is where God has intervened. He even said that, hey, I'm not going to let them build another Tower of Babel. That is our clue that God is not going to give them a new world order, even though they wrote their own scripture in the King James Bible that they will get their new world order. Isn't that funny how it goes? Or a pandemic more severe than the last one. COVID-19 showed how quickly populations submit to digital passes and emergency decrees because they're so damn scared. A future pathogen more lethal and less forgiving, maybe, would justify a global health passport tied directly to identity and dividend. Well, I think they tried to get this already launched during COVID-18, but it failed. Didn't kill as many people as they wanted. A future pathogen, more lethal, less forgiving. Well, compliance would not be optional. Refusal would mean exclusion, not only from healthcare, but from economic life itself. And looming behind them all is the specter of cyber attacks on infrastructure. If the grids go dark, markets freeze, and communications fail. Panic, well, that'll be immediate. And in the aftermath, blockchain systems would be framed as incorruptible, untouchable, immune to attack. Trust the ledger, they would say. It cannot be hacked in one stroke. The digital registry could become the new ark, carrying people all across the flood of chaos. Well, I don't know if that's going to be the right one, but it could be. Just doesn't make sense to me. And each of these crises could stand alone. Together, they could form a polycrisis that elites already have been speaking of. It's a convergence of disasters that overwhelms the old order and demands a new one. Order out of chaos. But here lies the esoteric truth, the Satanists. Crisis is not merely a threat, it is the initiation. Just as alchemy requires fire to transmute base metals into gold, so too does the corporate republic require fire to transmute citizens into shareholders. Now, the elites cannot impose this system in peacetime. Resistance would be too strong. But in catastrophe, people accept what they would otherwise reject. Fear erases memory. Desperation silences resistance. And the counterfeit covenant is embraced as salvation. The dividend becomes manna in the wilderness, but it is manna with a contract. Manna that binds you to the Tower of Babel rebuilt. So when the catastrophe comes, whether natural, financial, or manufactured, or even unnatural, it will not be a tragedy. It will be the ignition of the corporate republic. And the crisis is the key here, and they are waiting for the door that will open. Just waiting. Now, beneath the surface language of law, technology, and crisis management, there is an older script at work. The elites may speak of efficiency, fairness, and resilience, but their architecture carries with it ancient archetypes, echoes of spiritual rebellion that stretch back to Babel and forward to Revelation. The first archetype is Babel. We can learn from it. Genesis tells us that humanity, united in pride, sought to build a tower that reached the heavens. Well, God scattered them, not out of cruelty, but out of mercy, to restrain their hubris and protect them from a counterfeit unity. And what we see today is Babel being rebuilt, but not with bricks and mortar, with servers and ledgers. And the post-nation corporate republic is a new tower, a human attempt to unify, apart from God, to create salvation through code. It is the same spirit dressed in modern garb. Now, the second archetype is the book of life. In Scripture, God alone holds the book in which the names of his people are written in. And in his mercy, sins can be blotted out. But in the blockchain ledger, every action is etched permanently. Without forgiveness, this counterfeit book is merciless, immutable, and transactional. Where God's book is relational, the ledger is mechanical. And it promises order but delivers bondage. It's a record without grace. And the third archetype is alchemy, everything Satanist wants. The occult dream of transformation has always been solve et coagula. Dissolve and recombine. Dissolve the old forms and coagulate them into a new whole. This is exactly the method of the elites. Dissolve nations, dissolve citizenship, dissolve constitutions, then coagulate the fragments into a single global corporate entity. It is the alchemical transmutation of politics into contract, of citizens into shareholders. And finally, the fourth archetype is the mark of the beast. You've heard of that. Revelations warns of a system in which no one can buy or sell without the mark. For centuries, interpreters wondered how such control could be exercised. Now we see it. Programmable money tied to digital identity enforced by global contracts. It's there. It's so plain as day, it's not even funny. So to accept that dividend, you must accept the ID. To buy and sell, you must be registered. This is not speculation. It is the exact architecture. The exact architecture being assembled in plain sight. These archetypes are not coincidental. The architects of this system are not only technocrats and lawyers. Many are steeped in occult philosophies, transhumanist visions, and Gnostic dreams. They're psychopaths. They long for a counterfeit logos, a mathematical word made flesh and code. And they dream of a registry that rivals God's. They seek a unity that abolishes nations and enthrones man as his own savior. But here's the warning. These esoteric currents are not simply cultural metaphors. They are spiritual realities. And what the elites are building is not merely a political order. It is a spiritual counterfeit, a rebellion disguised as progress, bondage disguised as fairness, and damnation disguised as salvation. Don't go for it. So when you hear the words like universal income or fairness or resilience or global governance, you know they're on to controlling your ass. And behind the rhetoric lies Babel and the counterfeit book of life. You were warned. So we stand here at the threshold of a new order. The corporate republic is not fantasy. I have proven to you it's here. I've got it in my notes. I've got it in my bibliography and endnotes. I have scholarly, Chicago-style sources. So you can look up all of the information that I've found to prove my argument. And what all of this means for us is very sobering. We've got to recognize that citizenship is under siege. That means your dignity and rights that were grounded in something higher than a contract. And it meant that you belong to a people, a story, a covenant that could not simply be revoked unless you take the mark. But in the corporate republic, your dignity is conditional. Your benefits are programmable, and your belonging is nothing more than a share that can be suspended or revoked. Don't trust them. Your rights are being transmuted into privileges. And obedience will be the currency of survival. Just shut your mouth, or you won't eat tomorrow. This is not the kingdom of God. Is it? No. Is the kingdom of God to keep your share, so you must comply? No. Well, the corporate republic will masquerade as fairness, salvation, and even peace. Whose ledger is mercy, whose kingdom is eternal. Oh, that's Christ. I tricked you. These only come from Christ, whose covenant is not conditional. Christ, whose ledger is mercy, whose kingdom is eternal. So we trace the blueprint here of a world in transition. The dissolution of nations into contracts, the redefinition of citizenship into shareholding, and the rise of corporations and cities as sovereign actors. They're doing it. They're setting it up. It's right under your noses. Now you've got to take a stand and say, no smart cities. And this isn't the first time mankind has reached for heaven with its own hands. God has always allowed rebellion for a season, but only a short season. And the corporate republic is not the final word. It is a counterfeit kingdom, a parody of justice, a shadow of sovereignty. Its very existence testifies that the true kingdom is near. Jesus commanded us to stop freaking out. Well, he didn't say it that way. But means the same. So we must prepare, but not with fear, with clarity. The world will tell us that survival depends on obedience to the ledger. You will have gone through so much hell on earth that you will finally look at that and refuse it and know through all the faith that you've built through all these hard times that God will take care of you outside of Babylon. Christ promises inheritance for faith. And the world will build Babel once again. Stop worrying. But God will bring down Babylon. He always has. You guys will make the right decision when it comes. I know it. And because of watching this show, you'll know when it's here. And the elites, as they prepare their corporate republic, well, we will be preparing for a kingdom that cannot be shaken. Theirs is temporary, brittle, and counterfeit. Ours is eternal, unbreakable, and true.
Why do 75% of people feel exhausted all the time? The answer might surprise you. In the 1920s, Standard Oil decided to dive into medicine. They pushed synthetic petroleum into our drugs. Sure, it masked symptoms, but it wrecked our guts. Our good bacteria, which fight off parasites and heavy metals, got wiped out by crude oil. But here's the good news. We can fix this by going back to nature. Introducing Elite Potion, the world's top detox program. It restores your good bacteria by removing toxic threats like aluminum, strontium, barium, and parasites. Imagine feeling energized and alive again. They said there couldn't be a pill that did it all. We invented it. Visit elitepotion.com and reclaim your health from synthetic pharmaceuticals. Your body will thank you.
This has been Cause Before Symptom. I'm your host, James Carner. Tune in tomorrow night when God gives me another revelation to tell you guys all about. God bless you, God keep you, and God thank you for supporting my show. Go to jamescarner.com and sign up to my newsletter. That's the only way I can get a hold of you if I get blacklisted. And there are free books that I wrote. Go download them. They're free. They're yours. Go to elitepotion.com and sign up for my award-winning detox program. It will stop you from dying, and it'll stop the Fourth Industrial Revolution from taking over your body, the temple. And if you could all do me one big favor, just try to love your neighbor, because it will make the world a better place. We'll see you tomorrow.